The red sun of Kepler 442b cast long shadows across the rocky ground as Minji stepped off the shuttle. Her boots crunched on the strange purple sand that covered most of this alien world. She pulled her grandmother's scarf tighter around her neck. The fabric was soft and warm, with tiny blue flowers her grandmother had sewn by hand back on Earth. "Stay close to the group," Dr. Hayek called out to his students. "We don't know what lives on this planet yet." Minji nodded and adjusted her scanner. She was only 19, but she had dreamed of exploring alien worlds since she was a little girl. Now, as a xenobiology student aboard the research ship New Horizon, that dream was finally coming true. The survey team spread out across the landing zone. Captain Dong-yun and his security officers kept their weapons ready. They had found signs of large creatures on their orbital scans, but nothing had shown up yet. "Look at this," called Suman from the communications team. She was pointing at strange marks in the sand. "These tracks are huge. Whatever made them must be the size of a small building." Jae-hwan, one of the security officers, knelt down next to the tracks. "3 toes, each one bigger than my hand. And look at these claw marks. They go deep into the rock." Minji felt excited, rather than scared. This was exactly what she had come here to find. New forms of life, creatures that had never been seen before. She started following the tracks, her scanner beeping softly as it recorded everything. "Minji, don't wander off," Dr. Hyuk warned, but she was already 20 meters away, following the trail around a cluster of tall, crystal-like plants. The tracks led to a small valley between 2 hills. Minji could hear something making noise down there. It sounded like crying. She crept closer, staying low behind the strange plants. What she saw made her gasp. A massive creature was trapped in some kind of energy net. The beast was unlike anything in the textbooks. It stood 8 feet tall even while lying on its side. Its body was covered in black scales that seemed to drink in the light. 6 powerful limbs ended in claws that could easily tear through metal. Along its spine, strange markings glowed with a soft blue light. But what caught Minji's attention was not how dangerous the creature looked. It was the pain in its eyes. The energy net was burning the beast's left arm, sending crackling bolts of electricity through its body every few seconds. The creature's breathing was heavy and labored. "Found it!" Jae-hwan's voice echoed from behind her. The security team had followed her tracks. "It walked right into our trap, just like we hoped." Captain Dong-yun appeared next to Minji, his weapon drawn. "Perfect, this should make an excellent specimen for study." "You set a trap?" Minji asked, horrified. "It's hurt. It's dangerous," the captain replied firmly. "Look at the size of those claws. This thing could kill our entire team in seconds." Dr. Hyuk arrived with the rest of the survey group. He pulled out his recording device and started taking notes. "Fascinating. 6 limbs suggested evolved from a different genetic tree than Earth creatures. Those bioluminescent markings could be for communication or mating displays." The creature tried to move, but the energy net sent another shock through its body. It let out a sound that was part roar, part whimper. Minji's heart broke hearing it. "We need to sedate it and get it back to the ship," Captain Dong-hyun decided. "Wonbin, get the transport ready." "Wait," Minji said, stepping forward. "Look at its eyes, really look at them." Everyone turned to stare at her. "What do you mean?" Dr. Hayek asked. "It's intelligent. See how it's watching us? It's not just an angry animal. It's studying us, trying to understand what we want." Jae-hwan laughed. "All predators study their prey before attacking." "No, this is different." Minji moved closer to the trapped creature. Its head turned to follow her movement, but she saw no aggression in its gaze. Only pain, confusion, and something that looked almost like hope. "Minji, get back from that thing," Captain Dong-hyun ordered. "We don't know anything about it." But Minji was already kneeling at the edge of the energy field. The creature's breathing slowed as it watched her. Up close, she could see that its scales were not just black but had tiny rainbow colors that shifted in the light. The bioluminescent markings on its spine pulsed in a slow, steady rhythm. "It's beautiful," she whispered. The energy net sparked again, and the creature cried out in pain. The sound cut through Minji like a knife. She looked at the burned area. On its arm, the flesh was blackened and raw. If they didn't treat it soon, infection would set in. Turn off the trap, she said suddenly. Absolutely not, Captain Donghyun replied. That thing will attack the moment it's free. No, it won't. Minji stood up and faced the captain. I can see it in its eyes. It's not evil. It's just hurt and scared. You're being emotional, Dr. Hyok said gently. We can't take that kind of risk. Minji looked back at the creature. Another shock hit it, and this time she saw tears forming in its large, dark eyes. Real tears. She had never seen an alien cry before. Without thinking, she reached up and unwound the scarf from around her neck. The blue flowers seemed to glow in the alien sunlight. What are you doing? Jaewon asked nervously, raising his weapon. Something right, Minji replied. She looked at the control panel for the energy trap. It wasn't too complicated. She had studied basic field equipment in her classes. Minji, don't, Dr. Hyuk warned, but she had already pressed the shutdown button. The energy net flickered and died. The creature slowly pushed itself up into a sitting position, flexing its 6 limbs carefully. Everyone held their breath. The beast looked at each person in turn, then focused on Minji. It tilted its head like a curious dog. Moving very slowly, Minji approached the creature. Its arm was still smoking from the energy burns. The smell was awful, like burned meat and ozone. Easy, she whispered, the way she would to a hurt animal back on Earth. I want to help you. The creature watched as she knelt beside its injured arm. It could have killed her with one swipe of its claws. Instead, it held perfectly still. Minji gently wrapped her grandmother's scarf around the burned area. The soft fabric seemed tiny against the creature's massive arm, but she tied it carefully, making sure to cover the worst of the wounds. The moment the scarf touched its skin, something strange happened. The creature's bioluminescent markings began to pulse faster. Its eyes widened and it made a soft sound deep in its throat. It stared at Minji as if seeing her for the first time. Incredible, Dr. Hyuk breathed. Look at its bio readings, its heart rate is stabilizing. The creature slowly reached out with one of its uninjured arms. Minji didn't flinch as a massive claw, sharp enough to cut steel, gently touched her cheek. The touch was surprisingly warm and careful. I think it's trying to say thank you, Suman said quietly. Captain Donghyun lowered his weapon. This is impossible. Predators don't behave this way. The creature turned its head toward the captain and made a different sound. This one was deeper, more warning-like. It moved slightly, placing itself between Minji and the rest of the team. It's protecting her, Jaewon said in amazement. No, Minji said, understanding flooding through her. We're not enemies. We just didn't understand each other. She looked up at the massive creature. Did we hurt you when we came here? We didn't mean to. The creature's markings pulsed once, slowly. Somehow, Minji knew that meant yes. We came here to study the planet, she continued, speaking as if the creature could understand every word. We want to learn about your world, not hurt it. Another slow pulse. The creature looked at the rest of the team, then back at Minji. It pointed one claw at itself, then at the ground around them. I think it's saying this is its territory, Dr. Hyok said. Maybe it was investigating us the same way we were investigating. The creature nodded, actually nodded like a human would. It does understand us, Minji said excitedly. At least some of what we're saying. Daeho, the team's linguist, stepped forward carefully. The nodding might be coincidence, but he pulled out his translation device. Let me try something. He spoke a few words in different languages. The creature listened intently, its head tilting at different angles. When Daeho tried a series of mathematical concepts, the creature's eyes lit up. It started making sounds back, rhythmic and musical. It's trying to communicate, Daeho said, his hands flying over his device. This is remarkable. It has language, structure, mathematical understanding. A new sound interrupted them. Ship engines approaching fast. Everyone looked up to see 3 military vessels descending from orbit. They were not human ships. The creature's markings suddenly blazed bright red. It stood up quickly, all 6 limbs tense. The sound it made now was definitely a warning, deep and threatening. "Those aren't our ships," Captain Donghyun said, reaching for his communicator. "New Horizon, this is the survey team. We have unknown vessels incoming." The radio crackled with static. Then Hyunwoo's worried voice came through. "Captain, we're reading a whole fleet up here. They're jamming our communications and powering up weapons." The creature looked at Minji, then at the approaching ships. Its markings pulsed in complex patterns now, like it was trying to tell her something urgent. "I think it knows who they are," Minji said, "and it's scared." The first alien ship landed about a kilometer away. Others were landing all around them. The creature moved closer to Minji, making soft sounds that somehow felt like an apology. "What's it sorry for? Dr. Hyake?" The battle was over in minutes. Minji watched in amazement as the creature she had helped moved like liquid lightning across the battlefield. The alien soldiers fired their energy weapons, but the creature's scales seemed to absorb the shots. Its claws cut through their armor like paper. But what surprised her most was that the creature didn't kill anyone. It disabled the soldiers, destroyed their weapons, and sent them running back to their ships. Within an hour, the hostile fleet had retreated into space. The creature returned to where the humans waited. Its scales were scorched in places, and it moved with a slight limp, but it was alive. The scarf around its arm was dirty, but still intact. "Incredible," Dr. Hyok whispered. "It could have slaughtered them all, but it chose not to." Captain Donghyun was speaking rapidly into his communicator. "New Horizon, the threat is neutralized, but we need an immediate pickup. This situation is way beyond our mission parameters." The creature sat down next to Minji, careful not to crush any of the survey equipment scattered around. Up close, she could see that it was breathing heavily. The fight had tired it out. "Are you okay?" she asked, reaching out to touch its uninjured arm. The creature made a soft rumbling sound and nodded. Then it did something that made everyone stare. It pointed at itself and made a sound. "Keth." "Keth?" Minji repeated. "Is that your name?" Another nod. Then Keth pointed at Minji and made a questioning sound. "Minji," she said, pointing at herself. "My name is Minji." Keth repeated her name carefully, pronouncing each syllable with care. Minji. Daiho was frantically working on his translation device. "This is unprecedented. It's learning our language in real time. The cognitive processing required for that is—" He looked up at Keth with new respect. "You're not just intelligent. You're brilliant." Keth's markings pulsed in what Minji was beginning to recognize as pleasure or agreement. It pointed at the other humans one by one, clearly asking for their names. By the time the rescue shuttle arrived, Keth had learned everyone's name and was attempting simple conversations with Daiho's translation device. "We can't bring that thing onto the ship," Captain Donghyun said as they loaded the equipment. "It's a security risk." Keth, who was apparently understanding more and more of their language, made a sad sound. It looked at Minji, then at the shuttle, then back at her. "It wants to come with us," Minji realized. "It doesn't want to be separated." "Absolutely not," the captain said firmly. "We don't know anything about its biology, its psychology, its intentions." "Its intentions?" Minji stood up, angry. "It just saved all our lives. Those soldiers would have captured or killed us if Keth hadn't protected us." "We don't know that. Maybe it was just defending its territory." Keth stood up and walked over to Captain Donghyun. The captain reached for his weapon, but Keth simply knelt down, making itself smaller and less threatening. It spoke a few words in its own language, then tried in broken English. "No. Hurt." "Minji, friends." Dr. Hyok stepped forward. "Captain, this is a first contact situation, the most important discovery in human history. We can't just leave it here. And we can't violate safety protocols either." Keth looked confused and sad. It walked back to Minji and gently touched the scarf still tied around its arm. Then it made a series of complex sounds pointing between itself and her. "What's it trying to say?" Suman asked. Daiho worked with his translation device for several minutes. Finally, he looked up with a shocked expression. I think, I think it's saying that you two are bonded somehow. Connected. What does that mean? Minji asked. I'm not entirely sure, but based on the linguistic patterns, it seems to be a permanent relationship in their culture. Like marriage, but deeper. Captain Donghyun stared at them. You're telling me that by giving it medical aid, she accidentally married an alien predator? Not married exactly. But connected, yes. It keeps referring to her as life heal giver and itself as lifeguard return. Minji looked at Keth, who was watching the conversation intently. You feel connected to me? Keth nodded, emphatically. It touched the scarf again, then placed its hand over what might have been its heart. Minji give healing, Keth give guarding. Always. Well, Dr. Hayok said dryly, I suppose that answers the question about whether it's coming with us. The trip back to the New Horizon was tense. Keth had to squeeze into the cargo hold of the shuttle because it was too big for the passenger seats. It stayed calm during the flight, but Minji could see it was uncomfortable in the small space. When they docked with the ship, word had already spread about their unusual passenger. Crew members lined the corridors to get a glimpse of the first alien intelligence humanity had ever encountered. Dr. Soo-young, the ship's xenopsychologist, was waiting at the docking bay with a full medical team. Fascinating, she said, as Keth carefully emerged from the shuttle. Bipedal, but with 4 additional limbs. Those bioluminescent markings are incredibly complex. Keth looked around at all the humans staring at it. Its markings began to pulse faster, and it moved closer to Minji. It's nervous, she realized. All these people are making it anxious. Can you blame it? Dr. Soo-young asked. This is probably as strange for it as it is for us. Captain Donghyun had been arguing with someone on his communicator during the entire docking process. Now he approached the group with a grim expression. I've been in contact with Earth Command. They want the alien transferred to a secure facility. For study immediately. No, Minji said before she could stop herself. Keth isn't a specimen, it's a person. It's an unknown alien life form that could be dangerous to the entire ship. Keth, who had been following the conversation, stepped forward. It looked directly at Captain Donghyun and spoke slowly in English. Keth, not hurt ship people. Keth guard Minji. Guard Minji friends. Dr. Soo-young's eyes widened. It learned English in less than 6 hours. Amazing cognitive abilities, Dr. Hyuk confirmed, and it seems to have perfect memory. It remembered everyone's name after hearing it just once. Wonbin, the ship's engineer, had been quietly scanning Keth with a handheld device. Now he looked up with an expression of complete bewilderment. Captain, you need to see this. Its body, temperature is perfectly regulated, but I'm not detecting any obvious cooling systems. Its scales seem to be made of some kind of organic crystal. And those markings... He shook his head. They're not just bioluminescent. They're generating electromagnetic fields. What does that mean? Minji asked. I have no idea. The energy patterns are unlike anything I've ever seen. It's like its entire body is one big biological computer. Keth noticed Wonbin's scanner and made an interested sound. It held out its uninjured arm, clearly offering to let him take more readings. Remarkable, Dr. Soo-young said. It understands the value of scientific cooperation. Over the next few hours, Keth patiently submitted to every test the medical team could think of. They discovered that its blood was copper-based instead of iron-based, which explained the blue-green color. Its bones were hollow but incredibly strong, like a bird's, but much more advanced. Most interesting of all, its brain showed activity, patterns that suggested it was constantly processing information from sources the humans couldn't identify. It's like it's connected to some kind of network. Dr. Soo-young explained to Minji as they watched Keth interact with Daeho's language. Programs. Its brain is receiving and transmitting data continuously. What kind of data? We don't know yet, but whatever it is, it's making Keth incredibly intelligent. It's not just learning our language. It's understanding our culture, our psychology, Our motivations. As if to prove her point, Keth looked up from the language console and walked over to them. Minji worried about Keth, it said in much clearer English. Keth is well. Keth grateful for ship people kindness. Your English is getting better fast, Minji said with a smile. Keth people are, how do you say, made for learning. We must understand to guard properly. Guard what? Dr. Suyong asked. What do your people guard? Keth's expression became sad. Worlds, life, balance, but... It made a gesture that somehow conveyed loss. Few Keth left. Bad sky people hunt. Us? Bad sky people? Minji asked. You mean those soldiers who attacked us? Keth nodded. They destroy worlds for metal stones. Keth try to stop, they kill Keth for stopping. Dr. Suyong and Minji exchanged looks. Keth, how many of your people are left? Keth was quiet for a long time. Its markings pulsed slowly, sadly. Not many. Maybe 300, 400, scattered across all sky. Across the galaxy, you mean? Yes, galaxy very big. Keth very few. The enormity of what Keth was telling them began to sink in. An entire species, reduced to a few hundred individuals, fighting a losing battle against some kind of galactic empire. And now you're bonded to me, Minji said quietly. Does that mean you can't do your job anymore? Can't guard worlds? Keth looked at her with what she was learning to recognize as affection. It gently touched the scarf on its arm. Minji is Keth's world now. Guard Minji. Guard what Minji loves. Same thing. Captain Dong-hyun, who had been listening from across the room, walked over. Keth, those soldiers who attacked us, will they come back? Keth's markings flashed red briefly. Yes, they want Keth. They want to study, to copy Keth abilities, then kill. Well, the captain said grimly, then I guess we'd better be ready for them. He looked at Minji and Keth, standing side by side. 3 days after joining the New Horizon, Keth had become part of the crew. The alien learned fast and helped wherever it could. Its 6 arms made it incredibly useful in engineering, where Wanbin taught it to repair systems that normally required multiple people. But Minji noticed that Keth was becoming more restless each day. Its markings pulsed with anxious colors, and it spent hours staring out the observation windows at the stars. What's wrong? She asked one morning as they shared breakfast in the cafeteria. Keth had learned to eat human food, though it preferred fruits and vegetables to meat. Keth pointed at its head, then made a gesture like waves. Other Keth calling. Network tells Keth that bad sky people are moving. Big movement. Very dangerous. Dr. Suyong, who was sitting nearby, looked up from her datapad. Network? You mean you can communicate with other members of your species? Yes. All Keth connected through bio-neural link. Share information. Share warnings. Keth's markings pulsed red. Right now, Network is screaming danger. Captain Dong-hyun hurried over to their table. Keth, we just received a priority message from Earth Command. A fleet of unknown ships is heading toward the Terran colonies. Could these be your bad sky people? Keth stood up quickly, its markings blazing bright red. Show Keth. They rushed to the bridge where Hyunwoo had the message displayed on the main screen. The fleet was massive, hundreds of ships, all heading toward human space. That is them, Keth said grimly. Hegemony Warfleet. They come to capture Keth and destroy human worlds. Wait, Captain Dong-hyun said. They're targeting human colonies? Why would they care about us? We're new to space travel. Keth's expression was sad. Because humans help Keth. Because Minji show other humans how to be kind to Keth people. Hegemony fear human-Keth friendship. Other humans? Minji asked. You mean there are other people like us working with your people? Keth nodded. Network shows many humans now. Jinwoo on Forest World helps Vel save trees from metal cutters. Nari and Gex explore dangerous space together. Bongsu and Thais heal sick people on many worlds. Dr. Hyok, who had been listening quietly, stepped forward. Keth, are you saying that humans and your people are forming partnerships across the galaxy? Yes. Humans have gift Keth people need. Humans see friends where others see monsters. Humans heal where others hurt. Keth touched the scarf on its arm. This why hegemony afraid. Human-Keth partnership too strong. The implications hit everyone, at once. Humanity hadn't just made first contact with an alien species. They had accidentally become part of a galactic war. How long before the hegemony fleet reaches human space? Captain Dong-hyun asked. Keth closed its eyes, and its markings pulsed in complex patterns. Network calculates maybe 10 days, maybe 12. That's not much time to prepare. Hegemony very strong. Have ships, weapons, soldiers from many worlds. But Keth's markings brightened hopefully. Maybe human-Keth partnership stronger. Over. The next few hours they learned more about the enemy they were facing. The hegemony was an alliance of species that believed in conquest and resource extraction. They moved from system to system, stripping planets of valuable materials and enslaving or destroying the native populations. The Keth, or Vorthak, as they called themselves, had been created long ago by an ancient civilization to protect worlds from exactly this kind of threat. Each Vorthak was bioengineered to be the perfect guardian, intelligent, powerful, and connected to a network that allowed them to coordinate across vast distances. But something went wrong, Keth explained, as they gathered in the conference room. Ancient ones who made Keth disappeared. Keth left alone to guard Galaxy. Too few Keth for too many worlds. Wanbin was studying readings from Keth's bioscans. I'm starting to understand how your technology works. Your entire body is like a living computer, constantly processing information and adapting to new situations. Yes, Keth made to learn, to grow, to become what each world needs for protection. And now you're learning to work with humans, Dr. Suyong said thoughtfully. What does that make you? Keth considered the question carefully. Better. Humans think in ways Keth do not. Humans see solutions Keth cannot imagine. Together may be strong enough to stop hegemony. A warning alarm sounded on the bridge. Yunwoo's voice came over the intercom. Captain, we're receiving a transmission. It's coming from the hegemony fleet. They rushed to the bridge where a stern human face filled the main screen. The man wore the uniform of an Earth admiral, but something about his eyes seemed wrong. I am Admiral Taeyang of the Hegemony Enforcement Division, the figure said. You are harboring a dangerous alien predator in violation of galactic safety protocols. Surrender the creature immediately and your ship will be spared. Captain Dong-hyun stepped forward. Admiral, this is Captain Dong-hyun of the research vessel New Horizon. The alien aboard our ship is a peaceful guest, not a prisoner. Admiral, Taeyang's expression didn't change. The creature you call peaceful is a weapon of mass destruction, bioengineered to disrupt civilized society. It must be contained before it can cause more damage. Keth moved to stand beside Minji, its markings pulsing with anger. Taeyang human serves hegemony now, not human anymore, just hegemony tool. You know him? Minji asked quietly. Network remembers. Taeyang was human explorer like you. Then hegemony captured him, changed his mind with machines. Now he hunts his own species for hegemony masters. The revelation sent a chill through everyone on the bridge. The hegemony didn't just conquer worlds. They turned people into weapons against their own kind. Captain Dong-hyun, Admiral Taeyang continued, you have 12 hours to comply. After that, your ship will be considered a legitimate military target. The transmission ended, leaving them in tense silence. 12 hours, Dr. Hyuk said quietly. What can we do in 12 hours against an entire fleet? Keth's markings suddenly blazed bright blue. Maybe everything. Keth has idea but need human help. What kind of help? Captain Dong-hyun asked. Human ships, human courage, human creativity, and most important, Keth looked at Minji. Human kindness. I don't understand. Keth walked over to the communications console. Keth can contact other Keth through network. Other Keth can contact human friends. If humans and Keth work together, maybe defeat hegemony fleet. Wanbin looked skeptical. Even working together, we're talking about a few hundred of your people, and maybe 1,000 humans scattered across the galaxy. The hegemony has millions of soldiers and thousands of ships. Numbers not everything, Keth replied. Hegemony fights for conquest. Human-Keth partnership fights for something stronger. What's stronger than survival? Dr. Soo-young asked. Keth touched the scarf on its arm, then placed its hand gently on Minji's shoulder. Love. Friendship. Protecting what matters. These things make people fight harder than fear or greed. Minji felt a strange sensation, like a warm glow spreading through her mind. Suddenly, she could sense other presences, distant but real. Other humans, other Keth, all connected through bonds similar to what she shared with Keth. I can feel them, she whispered. The network. There are so many of them. Keth's markings pulsed with excitement. Yes, Minji connected now. Can help coordinate human-Keth teams. Coordinate them to do what? Captain Donghyun asked. To show Galaxy that friendship stronger than fear. That creation better than destruction. Keth stood up straighter, its voice becoming more confident. Hegemony expects Keth to fight like warriors. But Keth with human partners fight like something new. Fight like guardians of hope. The next few hours were a whirlwind of activity. Using the network connection through Minji, they contacted human Keth, partnerships across the galaxy. Each pair brought something unique to the alliance. Jinwoo and Vel had knowledge of biotechnology that could enhance ship systems. Nari and Gex knew how to navigate through previously unmappable regions of space. Bongsu and Thais understood alien psychology and could predict hegemony tactics. But it was Sang-hoon and his partner Vex who brought the most crucial information. The hegemony isn't just coming to capture Keth, Sang-hoon reported through the network link. They're planning to destroy every world where humans and Keth have formed partnerships. They call it Containment Protocol. Genocide, Dr. Soo-young said quietly. They're planning to commit genocide. Keth's markings flashed bright red. Then network must stop them. Not just for Keth people, not just for humans, for all life in galaxy. Captain Donghyun looked around the bridge at his crew. This isn't what we signed up for when we left Earth. We were supposed to be explorers, not warriors. But that's exactly why we can win, Minji said, the words coming from some deep understanding she shared with Keth. We're not warriors. We're healers, teachers, builders. And when healers fight, they fight to preserve life, not destroy it. The hegemony won't expect that, Wanbin realized. They'll be prepared for a conventional battle, not for hope, Keth finished. Human hope combined with Keth determination. Most powerful force in galaxy, as they prepared for the battle that would determine the fate of both their species. Minji looked at her alien friend and felt the bond between them growing stronger. She had wrapped her scarf around a wounded creature's arm and accidentally started a revolution. Now it was time to see if love really could triumph over fear. The hegemony fleet was coming, but they would not find the helpless. The connection hit Minji like a lightning bolt. One moment she was standing on the bridge of the new horizon, and the next she was experiencing the thoughts and feelings of hundreds of human Keth partnerships across the galaxy. She saw through Jinwoo's eyes as he and his Vorthak partner Vel worked desperately to save a dying forest world. Corporate ships were burning vast sections of ancient trees to clear land for mining operations. But Vel's biotechnology was helping the trees adapt, growing faster and stronger than the corporations could destroy them. She felt Nari's excitement as she piloted her ship through a nebula that had been considered impossible to navigate. Her Vorthak partner Gex was using its connection to the network to map gravitational fields in real time, turning deadly space into safe passage routes. She experienced Bongsu's satisfaction as he helped Thys develop medicines that could heal both human and alien diseases. Their research was giving hope to planets where plagues had killed millions. But she also felt their fear. The hegemony was hunting them all. Ships were disappearing. Entire colonies were going silent. The network of human Keth partnerships was under attack across the galaxy. Minji, Dr. Su-young's voice broke through the visions. Are you all right? Minji opened her eyes to find herself sitting on the floor of the bridge, Keth's arms wrapped protectively around her. I'm okay. It's just, there are so many of them. The network is stronger now, Keth explained to the worried crew members, gathered around them. With Minji connected, human-Keth bonds can share information like never before. Captain Dong-yun helped Minji to her feet. What did you see? Everything. The whole galaxy. Hundreds of human Keith teams working together, but the hegemony is destroying them one by one. She looked at Keth with new understanding. That's why they're coming here. We're not just random targets. We're the heart of something that could change everything. Change it how? Dr. Hayek asked. Minji tried to find words for the feelings flooding through her from the network. Humans and Keth together aren't just stronger than either species alone. We're becoming something completely new. A new way of living, of exploring, of protecting life. Wan Bin was monitoring readings from both Minji and Keth. Your brain patterns are synchronizing. It's like you're becoming a shared consciousness. Not shared, Keth corrected. Enhanced. Human creativity plus Keth knowledge equals possibilities neither could imagine alone. Through the network, Minji could feel other human-Keth partnerships, beginning to converge on their location. Ships were traveling through hidden routes that only the Vorthak knew, carrying fighters who had learned to combine human innovation with alien abilities. How many are coming? Captain Dong-hyun asked. Keth closed its eyes, markings pulsing as it communicated through the network. Maybe 50 human Keth teams. Each team brings one ship, 2 people who think as one. 50 ships against a hegemony. Fleet of thousands? Dr. Su-young shook her head. The odds are impossible. Odds change when you fight for right reasons, Keth replied. Hegemony fights for conquest. We fight for love. Over the next 6 hours, the Allied ships began arriving. Each one was different, modified by the combined ingenuity of its human Keth crew. Some ships had grown what looked like organic armor, biotechnology that could repair damage and adapt to different weapons. Others had energy systems that seemed to pulse with life, powered by the same forces that made the Vorthak markings glow. Minji met each arriving partnership through the network connection. Captain Inwoo and his partner Zeph commanded a ship that could coordinate fleet movements across multiple star systems simultaneously. Scientist Yunbi and her Keth partner Krex had developed weapons that could disrupt the energy systems the hegemony used to control conquered populations. But it was Tactical Officer Sang-hoon and his partner Vex who brought the most disturbing news. We know what the hegemony really is, Sang-hoon reported as the alliance leaders gathered in the New Horizons conference room. They're not just conquerors, they're servants. Servants of what? Captain Dong-hyun asked. Vex, a Vorthak with silver markings instead of the usual blue, spoke in perfect English. Ancient enemy of the ones who made us. Beings that consume life energy from entire planets. They use hegemony species as tools to prepare worlds for harvest. Keth's markings flashed red with old anger. Devourers. The reason Keth were created. In first place. Ancient ones made us to guard against them, but then ancient ones disappeared. And now the Devourers are back, Minji realized, using the hegemony to clear away anyone who might resist them. The human-Keth partnerships threaten their plan, Yunbi added through her own network connection. We're showing the galaxy that species can work together instead of being conquered and controlled. Minji felt a chill of understanding. That's why they're so afraid of us. We're proof that their way isn't the only way. The meeting was interrupted by alarms. Hyunwoo's voice echoed through the ship. Captain, the hegemony fleet just dropped out of hyperspace. They're right on top of us. Everyone rushed to the bridge where the main screen showed a terrifying sight. Hundreds of dark ships filled the space around them, their hulls bristling with weapons. At the center of the formation was a massive vessel that seemed to absorb light instead of reflecting it. That's a Devourer command ship, Vex said grimly. The hegemony brought their masters to witness our destruction. Admiral Taeyang's face appeared on the communication screen again, but now Minji could see what Keth had meant about him being changed. His eyes were empty, lifeless. Whatever machines the hegemony had used on him had taken away everything that made him human. "Surrender the bioweapons immediately," Taeyang demanded. "Your resistance ends now." Minji stepped forward before Captain Donghyun could respond. Through the network, she could feel the support of every human Keth partnership in the Allied fleet. "My name is Minji," she said clearly. "And these aren't bioweapons. They're our friends." Taeyang's expression didn't change. "Friendship is a weakness that the galaxy cannot afford. You will surrender, or you will be eliminated." "No," Minji said simply. "We won't." The first hegemony ships opened fire immediately. Energy beams that could vaporize mountains struck the Allied fleet, but instead of exploding, the ships seemed to drink in the energy. Their bio-enhanced hulls absorbed the attacks and converted them into power for their own systems. "Impossible," came Taeyang's voice, though he couldn't hide a hint of confusion. Keth stood beside Minji, its markings blazing bright blue. "Hegemony expects fear, finds hope instead, hope much stronger." The battle that followed was like nothing anyone had ever seen. The Allied ships moved with perfect coordination, guided by the network connection that linked every human Keth partnership. They flowed around hegemony attacks like water, striking at weak points with surgical precision. But it was the humans who provided the real surprises. Where Vorthak technology was powerful and efficient, human creativity was wild and unpredictable. Wanbin had somehow convinced his ship's biosystems to grow energy cannons that fired in patterns no hegemony computer could calculate. Nari used her knowledge of impossible navigation to appear behind enemy lines where no ship should have been able to go. The hegemony fleet began to falter. Their rigid command structure couldn't adapt to the chaotic but effective tactics of the Human Keth Alliance. That's when the Devourer command ship began to move. The massive vessel was like a living shadow, absorbing light and energy from everything around it. As it approached, Minji felt something horrible pressing against her mind through the network connection. "It's trying to break the bonds," she gasped, falling to her knees as pain shot through her head. All across the Allied fleet, human Keth partnerships began to scream. The Devourer was using some kind of psychic weapon to sever the connections that made them so effective. "Fight it," Keth urged, its own markings flickering as it struggled against the attack. "Remember why we bonded. Remember healing touch." Minji forced herself to focus on that first moment when she had wrapped her scarf around Keith's wounded arm. The simple act of kindness that had started everything. She felt the memory strengthen her, and through the network, she shared it with every other partnership. Across the fleet, humans remembered their first moments of connection with their Vorthak partners. Acts of healing, gestures of trust. Moments when two different species had looked past fear and found friendship. The Devourer's psychic attack faltered. Its weapon was designed to break bonds based on conquest and control, but it couldn't understand connections built on love and mutual respect. "Now!" Minji called through the network. While they're confused, the Allied fleet struck as one, not at the hegemony ships, but at the Devourer command vessel itself. Energy beams powered by the combined will of 50 human Keth partnerships converged on the shadow ship. For a moment, nothing happened. Then cracks of light began to appear across the Devourer's dark hull. The cracks spread, growing brighter and brighter until the ship didn't explode. It transformed. The darkness fell away like a shell, revealing something beautiful underneath. The Devourer had been a corrupted life form, twisted by eons of consuming other worlds. But the healing energy of the human Keth network had restored its original nature. Admiral Taeyang's face reappeared on the communication screen, but now his eyes showed confusion instead of emptiness. 6 months had passed since the battle that changed everything. Minji stood on the observation deck of the new Terra station, watching ships from dozens of different species dock peacefully at the massive spaceport. The station itself was a marvel of human Keth cooperation, grown rather than built, with living walls that could repair themselves and energy systems that drew power from the love and friendship of its inhabitants. "Still hard to believe sometimes," Keth said, joining her at the window. The Vorthak had grown larger over the past months, its markings now a constant swirl of happy blues and greens. The scarf Minji had given it was still tied around its arm, though now it was woven with threads of light that pulsed in time with Keth's heartbeat. "Which part?" Minji asked, leaning against her friend's warm scales. "That we started a galactic revolution, or that it actually worked?" "Both," Keth replied with what had become its version of laughter, a musical sound that made its whole body vibrate gently. Through the massive windows they could see the construction of New Terra's surface. The planet below was the first world to be jointly terraformed by the Human-Vorthak Alliance. Where other species had used machines and chemicals to change hostile worlds into livable ones, the Alliance had taken a different approach. They had asked the planet what it wanted to become. Using Vorthak biotechnology enhanced by human creativity, they had awakened the world's dormant life force. Now, instead of a barren rock, New Terra was becoming a garden paradise where beings from across the galaxy could live together in harmony. "Minji?" A small voice made her turn around. A young hegemony child, one of the refugees from the transformation, was tugging on her shirt. The little girl had been born on a conquered world and had never seen kindness before coming to New Terra. "What? Is it Arya?" Minji knelt down to the child's level. "Keth promised to show me the crystal gardens today," Arya said hopefully. "Are you coming too?" Minji smiled and looked at Keth, whose markings were practically glowing with affection for the little girl. Over the past months, the Vorthak had become incredibly popular with children from all species. There was something about their gentle nature and protective instincts that made kids feel instantly safe around them. "Of course we're coming," Minji said. "Let me just check the daily reports first." They walked together through the stations, corridors, past gardens where human botanists worked alongside former devourer entities to grow food that could nourish any species, past workshops where Vorthak bioengineers collaborated with human inventors to create technologies that enhanced life instead of destroying it. In the main command center, Captain Dong-hyun was coordinating with Alliance partners across the galaxy. The New Horizon had become the flagship of the Alliance fleet, though it barely resembled the research vessel it had once been. Like all Alliance ships, it had been enhanced with living technology that made it faster, stronger, and more capable than any purely mechanical vessel. "Good morning, Minji," the captain greeted her as she approached his command station. "We've got some interesting reports from the outer colonies." "Good interesting or concerning interesting?" she asked. "Good, I think. 3 more former hegemony worlds have requested Alliance membership, and Sang-hoon reports that his diplomatic mission to the Rigel system was successful. The local species have agreed to try partnership bonding with volunteer Vorthak." Minji felt a warm glow of satisfaction through her network connection. Each new partnership made the Alliance stronger and brought more hope to the galaxy. "Any word from the deep exploration teams?" she asked. Captain Dong-hyun's expression became more serious. "Inwoo and Zeph report finding evidence of more ancient sites in the galactic core, structures that might have belonged to the original Vorthak creators." This was the big question that still haunted the Alliance. The ancient civilization that had created the Vorthak had vanished mysteriously thousands of years ago. Understanding what happened to them might be the key to preventing the same fate from befalling the current galactic community. "Are they investigating?" "Carefully. After what happened with the Devourers, we're not taking any chances with ancient technology." The Devourers had turned out to be another creation of the ancient civilization, designed as the opposite of the Vorthak. Where the Vorthak were meant to preserve and protect life, the Devourers had been created to consume and recycle it. But something had gone wrong, and instead of maintaining balance, they had become parasites that fed on destruction. The Alliance's healing of the Devourers had been one of their greatest successes. Most of the transformed beings now called themselves cultivators and worked to restore the worlds they had once stripped bare. "Minji," Dr. Soo-young called out from across the command center. "You need to see this." They walked over to where the xenopsychologist was studying reports from Alliance worlds across the galaxy. Her screen showed statistics that made Minji's heart race with excitement. "Crime rates down 90% on all Alliance worlds," Dr. Soo-young read. "Interspecies, conflicts approaching 0. Economic productivity up 300%. Most remarkably, we're seeing the emergence of what I can only call hybrid cultures, new ways of thinking and living that combine the best aspects of multiple species. The partnerships are working, Minji said, though she had felt this success through the network connection for months. It's more than that. The human-Vorthak bonds aren't just creating individual partnerships. They're teaching entire civilizations how to cooperate instead of compete. Keth, who had been listening quietly while Arya played with its markings, spoke up. Ancient ones hoped for this. Keth remembered now, through network connection to old sites. Ancient ones created Keth and Devourers as experiment in balance. When experiment failed, Ancient ones... It paused, searching for words. What happened to them? Captain Donghyun asked. Ancient ones became something else. Evolved beyond physical form. Left galaxy to find new places to grow, but first they planted seeds. Seeds? Keth looked at Minji with an expression of deep affection. Humans are seeds. Humans have gift for bringing different things together, for healing what is broken. Ancient ones knew that someday humans would find Keth people, would create new balance. The implications hit everyone at once. Humanity's role in the galaxy hadn't been an accident. They had been placed on Earth, developed their unique capacity for empathy and cooperation. Also, they could one day find the Vorthak and complete the ancient experiment in galactic harmony. So we're fulfilling an ancient prophecy? Minji asked. Not prophecy, Keth corrected. Choice. Ancient ones gave humans and Keth the ability to create balance, but choice to use it was always yours. Arya, who had been patiently waiting for the adult conversation to end, tugged on Keith's arm again. Can we go see the Crystal Gardens now, please? Yes, little star, Keth said gently, using the pet name it had given all the children on the station. Time for wonder and play. They made their way to the Crystal Gardens, one of New Terra Station's most beautiful areas. Here, Vorthak bioengineers had convinced minerals to grow like living things, creating sculptures of impossible beauty that sang with harmonious tones when the station's inhabitants were happy. As Arya ran between the singing crystals, laughing with pure joy, Minji felt the network connection pulse with contentment from partnerships across the galaxy. Children were playing safely on 1,000 worlds. Former enemies were working together to build new wonders. Species that had been isolated for millennia were learning to communicate and cooperate. We did it, she said quietly to Keth. We actually changed the galaxy. We began changing galaxy, Keth corrected. Work is never finished. Always new life to protect, new friendships to build, new balance to create. Through the network, Minji could feel the truth of that statement. Alliance exploration teams were making contact with new species every week. Some were eager to join the cooperative community. Others were suspicious or hostile. Each contact required patience, understanding, and the kind of healing touch that had started everything when she wrapped her scarf around a wounded alien's arm. Minji Keth, Arya called out from where she was playing near a particularly large crystal formation. Come see, the crystals are making pictures. They hurried over to find that the girl was right. The crystals were somehow projecting images, scenes from across the galaxy showing alliance partnerships at work. Jinwoo and Vel, now elderly but still devoted to each other, teaching young people how to help forests adapt to different climates. Nari and Gex, exploring regions of space that had been considered impossible to navigate. Bongsu and This, their medical research having eliminated diseases that had plagued civilizations for centuries. But the most beautiful image was of Earth itself, where the first human Vorthak cultural exchange center had been built. Human children and young Vorthak learned together, played together, and formed friendships that would last lifetimes. The network is showing us our success, Keth explained. All partnerships, all friendships, all healing we have accomplished, together. As they watched, more images appeared. Former hegemony worlds where new democratic governments had been established. Cultivator restoration projects bringing dead planets back to life. Deep space exploration missions discovering wonders that no single species could have understood alone. And at the center,